Hey everybody, this is Marian Cowing Owen.
And this is David Owen.
And this is You Show Me Yours, the podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and TV that they loved before the first date. And today I was made to watch Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yes, you were.
I thought I had seen it before, but oh boy, I would have remembered that.
Yes, you were taken on a journey
Of something.
of Frankie Ford.
Frankie Ford and the horny bunch.
Yes.
Yeah, let me just get this out of the way. This is super horny, which is not actually surprising when we've seen the progression of horniness in the Dracula movies, but this is like next level. Like every single person is horny the entire time.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's 1992 and you've got Nick Cage's uncle directing a movie, so
it's
uncle, cousin, they're related, I can't remember.
It's kind of, and it's funny watching this now with actors that I've seen in other things. I'm imagining this as like side stories to other movies that they've been in.
Okay.
Like a couple years after this, Keanu Reeves was in The Devil's Advocate.
Yes.
Which is very similar notes there. A couple years after this, Anthony Hopkins was in Legends of the Fall.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he's old and he's had a stroke and everything, and he's wandering around in a bear coat shooting people, and like you can see how that goes here. Mm-hmm. No connections between this and The Princess Bride. Like the Carrie Elway's character doesn't really track. But guess who's also here? The Rocketeer.
Yes.
Billy Campbell, going by Bill here.
Bill,
I think he was like, no. Billy works for my boyish charm.
I'm a serious actor now.
Right. I'm just Bill, but then his agent was like, no. Billy.
Yeah.
Billy works.
He is playing a character that we have not yet seen, but oddly enough plays a significant role in the book.
Really?
He is the man who strikes the killing blow on Dracula.
And is he from Texas in the book?
I am not sure, but I think so, but I don't hold me to that.
That is hilarious.
But yeah, he is in the book. He is the man that stabs just like in. So that's a thing that we'll talk about. This is an extremely book accurate movie.
Wow.
And so it's really weird that we saw Arthur once, I think.
Yeah.
And Quincy zero until this.
And Seward has been a couple different roles, but I don't think he's ever been a choice for Lucy's husband.
Right.
Or partner.
He was her father in the first one.
And he was just a doctor who wasn't related to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, he was sort of a foil for Van Helsing in one of them.
Yeah. In this one, Lucy has basically three beaux, all of whom are in love with her. And it's Quincy the Texan, Dr. Seward, played by Richard E. Grant, and Arthur, played by Carrie Elways. And she chooses Carrie Elways. I would go with the Rocketeer, 100%.
Naturally. Well, he has a big knife.
Well, despite that, and despite him being from Texas, I am dying to know what 18-something people thought of a Texan with a big knife.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that there's a point where Arthur calls him a colonial. that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's this movie is all over the place. It's all over the place because the book, in a lot of ways, is all over the place.
It really is, and I really thought I had seen it before. But I don't think I could have, because I would have remembered a lot of this. Yeah.
A lot of exposed chests, men and women.
Yeah.
A lot of, blouses falling open, men and women.
Writhing, a lot of apparently very extended orgasms. Or,
that's the pleasure of the vamping.
I suppose. Well, I feel like we had a discussion many episodes ago about how the vampire bite is very arousing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a sexuality to the entire thing.
There's a lot.
And yes, Francis Ford Coppola brought it out. I probably influenced by Fred Fucks. who we saw as like an executive producer, is a guy named Fred Fuchs.
It's Fuchs.
It is, but forever will be Fred Fox. And I know someone's made that joke before. We're not thinking that up for the first time.
Many times. Yeah.
Every kid in his third grade class made that joke too.
I worked with a guy whose last name was Fuchs, and he never mentioned that had been a thing he was teased about growing up, but I'm sure he was. And I think, oh, poor guy. There are some last names where they just, whoever needs to change their name when they get married and have children to the other's name so that name does not get passed on. Some names don't need to continue. That's
yep. No. 100%. 100%. Yeah. So this movie's really horny, really sexy.
Yeah.
A lot of sexy horniness.
It's interesting though to see, well, like I said, the progression of horniness so now, this is our last Dracula movie, so we're kind of looking at
it's unavoidable that we're going to use this as a retrospective.
We're looking at the scope of all of them. In the first one, and now it's been only a month, but they're all blurring together. There was, only the suggestion of sexuality. Like there was
1931.
Yeah. Who the final girl, I don't remember if it was Lucy or Mina at that point.
Yeah.
But she says, "Oh, something happened that's worse than death," and it's like she felt a flicker of arousal when Dracula was near. That's basically what she's talking about. And now we've got Jonathan walks in on Mina, basically full on having sex with Dracula, and there's blood all over both of them. And then
they're making out.
Apparently, it's fine.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But, also, they don't really tell us because we don't see a resolution to the movie, which drives me
I don't know.
bonkers.
I feel like there's a resolution to the movie.
Did Mina leave and go back and be with Jonathan, or did she stay there in the castle with dead Dracula?
Well, I mean, maybe it's up to you.
I hate those.
But certainly she went back to Jonathan.
Well, okay. Did Jonathan's hair ever go back to being dark?
It did for one scene.
Okay, I noticed that. Why? Yeah, that was.
I'm going to assume that they wanted an insert shot of Jonathan, and they didn't get it on the day, but they had a shot of him from earlier in the movie, and
so they just used that.
They used, but 100%. His hair is full on black for the last time he appears on camera. Yeah.
So, Jonathan in this case is the solicitor and is sent to Romania to have Dracula sign the papers.
After Renfield has. So, this one, like we said, it's true to the book. Mm-hmm. Renfield goes, he starts working out the Carfax Abbey.
And we see a sign. It is Carfax, Carfax.
Yes, and I also confirmed afterwards, after the last episode.
I am going to go to my grave believing that the founders of Carfax named it after this abbey.
Right. It's not named after automobiles or the facsimile.
And
it's
the
named
fox
after the abbey.
Has nothing to do with it. It is someone was a Dracula super fan and was like, no one will get this except me. Well, we got it.
Yeah. So, Renfield goes and he does his thing, starting to set up the sale of Carfax Abbey, and they say 10 properties total in London, which we assume are supposed to be his like other little hideouts or whatever.
And that's kind of dropped. We don't ever really see the other ones.
There's not much follow up on that. Any follow up on that really. And Renfield returns to London, and he's crazy now, and he eats bugs like all the Renfields pretty much, and he's put in Seward's sanitarium, which is next door to Carfax Abbey, which I'm assuming that's from the book. That's in the 31 Dracula. That's, teased and played with in different ways in the other two we've watched. But yeah. And then from there, Jonathan goes, and that's how we start our story with Jonathan being called out to
the sanitarium, by the way, not that different. I think they've been pretty similar throughout the movies. I did notice one thing here. The guards or the wardens or whatever,
orderlies or whatever,
had these little cages on their heads, which are hilarious. At first I thought they were patients and they were there. That was like to stop them from, hitting their head against something. But no, it's so that if an inmate lunges at them,
Yeah, they can't get to their jugular
Yes,
or whatever, disfigure them.
I thought that's probably a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to wear that, but it's protective. So.
But as in the other movies where it's depicted, it is not a place you would want to be.
No.
In the late 1800s in a sanitarium, it is horrible, and
I can't imagine there were any sanitariums or hospitals, frankly, that were nice places to be at that time. That was yeah,
not at all. But this is, like I said, and again, I haven't read the book. I have read several articles and I have watched several YouTube videos, and I've quote unquote done some research, which is to say, I've spent about as much time as it might have taken me to read the book, reading on how these movies, which movies are similar to the book, what's in the book, what's in the movies that's not in the book. And a lot of it feels like this movie wanted to hit a lot of the signposts that previous movies had not been hitting. Dracula's old. In the beginning, I think in the book he's described as having wild hair or crazy hair. So he's got butt hair.
It's
hump.
It's a little bit Elizabethan looking. And then it's this long braid in the back. And when
Sir Mix-a-Lot sits in a large butt in the Baby Got Back video, his hair looks like that. I want somebody to put a little Sir Mix-a-Lot sitting in the middle of his hair buns.
She's little in the middle, but she got much neck.
Yes. And much palm hair.
Yeah.
Did you catch that? Yeah.
What? Oh, yeah. And at various points, he's like a werewolf.
Yeah. He's transforming into all these different...
He has all kinds of... Yeah, he takes all the forms.
Yeah, he does a bat, like a human-sized bat, like a 7-foot tall bat.
Yeah.
He turns into a wolf creature, a half wolf. He's mist. He turns into a full-on wolf. He turns into a green mist, which is straight out of the book. He does a lot of they hit the lines. I never drink wine.
Children of the night.
Yeah. Children of the night.
Yeah. By this point, I could tell that they were coming, and I was just waiting and giggling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they do a lot of fun stuff with his shadow, which I think is a thing from the book too.
That was pretty neat.
There are a lot of points I like where his shadow is on one side of the screen, and then they pan over and he's on the other side.
Oh, that was creepy. And his shadow is doing menacing things to Jonathan when he is not.
Choking him.
Oh,
and also, even when his shadow isn't explicitly doing anything out of the ordinary, it's just a little bit behind his movements.
Yeah.
Just enough so that it would be eerie.
Or there were times when his shadow was a creature that he was not embodying at the time, and there were some neat things.
Yeah, and just as far as the book stuff, they hit the whole thing. They hit the carriage stuff. I believe in the book it's explicitly stated that Dracula is posing as the carriage driver. I don't think that's ever explicitly shown here, but it's implied, I think. Certainly I believe I read that it's in the script that the carriage driver is Dracula.
Speaking of, Dracula is apparently part Inspector Gadget because he has very long arms when necessary.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. He reaches out, the carriage driver reaches out, and his arm gets longer and longer and longer, and then he sort of whisks Jonathan into the carriage.
Floats.
And he sort of floats, which that's the implication that it's Dracula doing the, driving the carriage. They do the blue flame, which is some kind of ward that's supposed to block the road or block the way out of the castle. They just hit, they've got the brides, they've got the gypsies, which are not in any of the other movies. I know, full disclosure, I know gypsy is considered an offensive term, but we're just using it in the context of the movie.
Yeah.
He's got his servants, shall we say, that are fiercely loyal and, they don't do a lot with the villagers and stuff that I think they do in the 31 movie, which I really like the villager stuff.
We briefly glimpse them at the very beginning as Harker gets out of the carriage and someone hands him across, and then there's this lady with a coin headdress,
gold
which
stuff.
Was odd.
It's really cool, yeah.
And they're basically like, "Good luck. Okay, sucks for you. Bye."
Yes. Yeah, and the wolves that pursue him, all of it. It's just we're not even 10 minutes in, and they're already hitting just signpost after signpost from the book, and it continues like that the whole way through the book, or the whole way through the movie. They just keep hitting the signposts up to and including, like I said, the ending of the movie, which is the only one out of the 4 that's even close to book accurate, where he is killed with knives.
Mm-hmm.
His throat is slashed and he's stabbed by Quincy with his big old knife.
Yeah. Well, but the person who delivers the final coup de grace is Mina.
Yeah.
Not anybody else, which I think is interesting because up until now, the women have not had a lot of agency.
Oh, no, not at all.
Certainly haven't killed anybody. There's this backstory here that Mina is the reincarnation,
which is not from the book.
Okay.
The link to Vlad the Impaler that they put in, and the reincarnation, Mina being a reincarnation of Elizabeth is not in the book.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I thought that was an interesting, and
but
there's this,
it's a great twist.
This arc of,
it's a great
kind of, that the whole concept of why he's a vampire is anger against God for taking away his wife, and then he's forgiven at the end, kind of. But at the beginning, Vlad the Impaler goes off to war to fight Turks, I guess. Invading Muslim Turks.
They say.
And the Turks tell Elizabeta that her husband has been killed, and so she jumps out the window into the river, and it's a very Romeo and Juliet thing. Yeah. Except that when Vlad gets back and finds out that she's dead, he curses God and he gets angry and stabs a crucifix, and it bleeds, and he drinks it, and boom, that's well, that early Elizabeta is played by Winona Ryder, and then we see it. So she's somehow the reincarnation. And they have, like in the previous versions, the relationship between Dracula and whichever woman he's in love with,
his main conquest,
is like when she's her normal self, she doesn't want it.
Yeah.
But then when she's under her spell, she does. And here you get the feeling that Mina is realizing the connection that they have, and she really does want it, like all of her. But then at the end, he says, "Give me peace. Do what you must do." And she kind of drives the knife in and actually finally kills him. And then she's crying, and he seems to be forgiven. There's light falls on him, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, and they pan out to a mural which had previously just had Elizabeta in it, and it now has him in it too.
Yeah. And then that's it. And I was just like, okay. I wanted a little more of an, we complained about the 31 version ending very abruptly. This does too.
I feel like it does, but it doesn't.
Through 60 years of filmmaking, we still haven't gotten the ending
I feel like I can walk away with the ending that I think happened, and I'm satisfied that I'm correct. And I don't have to worry about, what if I think she kills him and she walks back out, and her and Jonathan get back together and they go, I'm pretty sure the book has an epilogue that describes what happens to everybody. But yeah, one of these days we're going to read that book.
Yes.
We'll do a podcast where we talk about the book that we read.
We'll do a read.
Finally, we read Dracula.
Well, I thought it was interesting. So Jonathan basically is trapped for a month with the bride, and it's basically an orgy. And they're sucking his blood and lots of sex, one assumes.
Yeah.
And at some point, Van Helsing says to Jonathan, during your infidelity with these, infidelity, I can say that word, with these women, did you at any point swallow any of their blood? And Jonathan's like, no, of course not.
Of course not.
That would be the terrible thing. So it's, since he didn't swallow any of their blood, he's not infected the way that Mina is, or will become later. But also it's very upfront that, he had sex with all these women. So
I don't know if it is necessarily, because he also says he was impotent with fear.
I did notice that.
So I don't know that it's necessarily, okay, but it's implied, certainly.
Yeah. Well, but I was going to say, if there is this acknowledgement that he had sex with these women, well, she had this assassination with Dracula, so maybe it's fair.
Yeah.
It's on a level.
Well, but also they're both
right.
It was effectively against both of their wills, because there are times, the stuff with Mina is unclear. Very clearly, Lucy is under his spell. The Mina stuff, it's unclear when she is or when she isn't. There are definitely times where she resists, and then there are times where he will say something like, hear me, or something, and then like her resistances will, look at me, don't look at me, whatever, and her resistances will, ebb and flow based on that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit iffy with her, because he's going for more than just feeding like he was with Lucy.
I was surprised. So he introduces himself to Lucy to Mina as Prince Vlad. And then Harker and Van Helsing and all the Lucy's beaux are all referring to Dracula.
Yeah.
And I expected there to be a moment when Mina realizes, oh my God, they're the same person. What have I done? Blah, blah, blah. And there was nothing.
Well, there is. I mean, she realizes it right before he offers her his blood. He says to her, my name is Dracula. Right. He says, I am the thing that the breathing men would kill. And then he says, I am Dracula.
But there wasn't.
And she says, you killed Lucy. And then she says, but damn me, I love you still, or whatever.
I expected it to be a little bit.
Okay. I mean, it is there. I'm just saying it is there. Like, he admits that he's Dracula, and she curses him, but then says, that she still loves him despite it.
Well, at that point, she's under his thrall all the way. So I don't know. I expected it to work out differently.
I would argue that she's not at that point fully, because he bites her, then he cuts his chest open, and before she can drink, he has second thoughts. He says that he loves her too much to curse her to a life of undeath, and then she says, "No, I want it," and goes in for the suck. And that, to me, that feels like she's not under his explicit control at that point, because why would he? He's not doing that for the camera. He's not feigning. Well, but no, with his hand, on his forehead. Oh no, I can't possibly doom you to an eternity of, like. So I don't think at that point. I think it's just whatever part of her is potentially a reincarnation. Whatever she is, whether she understands it, or whether it's him doing it or her or whatever it is, she is like hopelessly infatuated with him, to the point where when Jonathan does escape and he's like, you must immediately come and marry me, and she does.
She does, yeah.
Even then, she's like, now that I'm married, I know even more that, and she keeps calling him my strange friend. Yeah, I know even more that I want my strange friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, So I mean, I don't know. I think it's this is probably my fourth or fifth time watching this movie. So it's your first time through. I don't. You're not going to pick up on every subtlety. Maybe. There is an argument to be made that if something is so subtle that you don't pick up on it, maybe it's too subtle. Yeah. So yeah, it's like yeah. But So like, big thumbs up on this book. So I've heard there is a BBC miniseries from a few years ago, 10 years ago, I don't know what, that is as accurate, if not more accurate. If you go, there's a video by a YouTube creator where he goes and he basically scores all the major Dracula movies, and says, okay, here you go, these are the ones. This one, these all have this. This one has this one doesn't have that. Here you go. And it's all of them starting at Nosferatu. It's the 31 Dracula. It's 79's in there. All the ones we watched are in there, plus dozens more, including like horror, including the not horror of Dracula, including the I'm losing. There's another one that I considered for this list, but I can't remember. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, that it's got a lot with the book. So thumbs up. We still haven't read the book, but it's like we've read the book because we've watched one of the top 2 or 3 most book accurate.
It's not.
Nope. It's like we've read the book.
Like we've read the book.
Effectively read the book.
Nope.
I'm going to say we've. If someone asks if I've read Dracula going forward, I'm going to say yes. I read Dracula because I watched Frankie Ford Coppola's.
And they will laugh at you.
Bram Stoker's
not
Dracula.
The same.
It's the same.
Fun fact, by the way, Lucy.
Yeah.
For like 3/4 of the movie, I kept thinking that is the actress who played Freddie Mercury's wife in Bohemian Rhapsody, except it can't be because it was 30 years before. How is that? Do you remember we saw that together? Do you remember?
Yeah.
It looks so much like her. Not her at all. They're not even related. That is the ex-Mrs. Jude Law. Sadie Frost is her name. But she looks so much like that actress. And I looked up, to see if they're related, and they're not. But there were a lot of things that were like, oh my gosh, they look so much alike. So I don't know.
I thought you were going to say for like a large portion of this movie or whatever you just said that she had a boob out.
Well, that too.
Yes. This character is not very careful about tying her robe.
Well, I think
Lucy.
I think that's the point. She's
there's like a temptress angle, because it's all of these men surrounding her were all at one time suitors. Three of them.
She's a big flirt, even before Dracula gets involved. But it's a little bit of an exorcist vibe. Honestly, she's taken over by this force, and she's not exactly acting like herself. I mean. We saw that she was a flirt beforehand, but she wasn't that much.
Or she wasn't that explicit. She was, she was the kind of woman that would go up to Quincy and say, "Can I touch it?"
Yeah.
It's so big, and then pull out his knife. Yes. So like very suggestive, and in a time when that was,
but like just on the edge.
Right. But I think it said introducing in the credits. So like great. First role, and it looked like I looked through her IMDb. She hasn't done a ton of movies. She's done a lot of short films and stuff, and she's done movies. But I was surprised at how few starring roles.
She had several kids with Jude Law, and then he had a fling with the nanny. And she's been a little busy taking care of the kids because no babysitter anymore.
That can affect your career, right? Yes. Well. So there are a lot of interesting things about this movie. I think the most interesting thing is that this movie may beat out Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves for unevenly applied accents.
Oh yeah, Poor. Well, and this was the time when we all thought of Keanu Reeves as kind of a dumb himbo.
Ted.
Yeah. Now the zeitgeist has changed, and he's just like a lovely man who puppies adore, and et cetera, et cetera. But at this point, he was dumb.
Like there are some lines like after he's back, he sees Dracula from the window of this carriage, and he's like, "It's the man himself." Like it's just such a, but he's young. Like it's just such a. He's not even trying. And then sometimes he's, I'm Jonathan Harker. He's like he's very serious about it. But just there are other times where he just forgets.
It would have made more sense for it to just make him American.
Yeah.
Like if we've got the Texan in here,
just don't force this poor guy. Winona Ryder does a pretty good job. She's spotty in places, but she keeps it pretty evenly applied. But the one that honestly is the worst is Anthony Hopkins.
Well,
is he German or not?
He's all over the place.
He's all over the place. And there are periods during the movie where he's doing voiceover and he's got a thick German accent. It's like they did this stuff before or after actually shooting the movie.
Right. And he was like, I've lost it.
Yeah, during the course of the movie, he's just half the time he's just doing Anthony Hopkins' voice. Like he's not trying at all. He is the most uneven, but he has a natural accent. Well, so it's like you don't.
He actually is British, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
So you right. Even when he slips out of it, he's not slipping out of it into whoa, or anything. He's slipping out of it into Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Yes.
Yeah, but he is just. He does the accent when he wants to do it, and when he doesn't, he just doesn't do it at all.
I mean, when you've had that long of a career, I feel like you just are going to be like, what? I'm Anthony Hopkins.
Right.
What are you going to do?
Anthony Hopkins here.
What are you going to do? I'm going to talk how I want.
This is how I talk. I'm Anthony Hopkins.
Van Helsing's been all around the world. He's very susceptible to accents.
I have to say, though, he is put to shame by Sir Laurence Olivier. who had a perfectly like I never once he was in character 100%.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt him that I've only seen him in a couple of things throughout his career, and I don't look at him and go, "Hey, that's Laurence Olivier." The way I look at Anthony Hopkins and go, "Hey, Anthony Hopkins. Hey, Chianti. Haha, I know you. You're that guy." And all that, you know? Yeah, but yeah, Olivier just knocked it out of the park.
He was very stoic in his Van Helsing.
Oh yeah,
this Van Helsing has a lot more fun.
He gets
with
wacky,
everything.
Wacky at times.
He's got well, and
there's no explanation for his variance in attitude. Like sometimes he is super serious, and then other times he is literally like holding on to Quincy, air humping him, talking about how Lucy's the whore of the devil now.
Yes.
You know, he's the devil's concubine. Like
he enjoyed that speech a lot.
Yeah. But like, there's no other than he's like semi giddy when he realizes that this is Dracula, that Dracula is Nosferatu, is the prey that he's been after for his whole life. Like, other than like that scene happening right before that. Yeah, it's just he's giddy. Like, I feel like there was a cutting room floor scene where like he did laudanum or something right before that, and they cut that out. Like, maybe we shouldn't have the scene where he does opium with mixed with absinthe,
because there was morphine at some point.
Right, Seward is shooting up more. He's shooting up morphine.
Yeah. So
and Vlad is Prince Vlad is introducing Mina to absinthe.
Absinthe. Yeah, it was a lot of drugs.
Yeah, and of all the accents that we were down on, I think Oldman keeps his accent pretty well applied, even if it is theatrical.
A little bit.
It's like he took Bela Lugosi's accent and was like, "Could I ham this up? Any at all?"
He was like, Bela Lugosi meets in what is it? The Professional. Isn't that it?
Leon?
Yeah.
Everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah. How can I combine these performances? No, it's 100%. And like, he has some great moments in this movie. Mm-hmm. The moment where Harker's shaving and he cuts himself and he takes this little second to lick the razor
and he turns around.
Yeah, he turns around and there's like a tight close up on him. You know, just like it's great. Like his facial expression, it's just like this. Oh, like this so good blood, you know, like, yeah.
Speaking of Harker, so the villager, when he's getting out of the coach, gives him a cross to wear, and he does. And it seems to keep Dracula from fully, attacking him. Yeah. Although it may be just Dracula's like, wait until he gets comfortable and then, But when the brides get a hold of him, like, they melt the cross right off him.
Oh, yeah.
Which I was like, wait a minute, are you supposed to be able to do that? What's
right.
So what do I do now? How do I keep this? Is there no protection for me? What do I do?
Yeah, I think the thing that's always been sort of bandied about in different Dracula movies is the cross as a symbol has some power. Excuse me, but it's based on the faith of the wielder, so that if an atheist holds a cross up to a vampire, it doesn't really do anything. They can overcome it.
Yeah.
Versus a true believer holding up a cross.
Interesting. So he only had that because someone gave it to him. So
and so maybe he's not as true a believer. Although it makes Dracula recoil. It makes the brides hiss or whatever.
Maybe at that point he was just so horny that then
he's pent up from just kissing on a park bench. Right. With his fiance
although I gotta say that was some serious kissing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like they were full on making out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Scandalous.
Let nobody say that Victorians were not horny because
totally. Totally. Yeah.
Back to Keanu Reeves for a second.
All right.
Yeah. These days there is he's thought of as this angelic man, good to everybody.
Yeah, just a nice dude. He's he never touches women in photos. Right. He puts touches the air.
Apparently had a difficult life, like his sister died and he had a daughter who was stillborn or whatever.
Yeah, and just like a genuinely not like good. If anything ever comes out that he's a bad guy, like that then might be the last straw.
I give up. Also, can I point out he is engaged to his girlfriend who has this lovely silvery hair.
Right.
And the first time that there was a picture of them at an event, the tons of people were like, "Why she looks so old?" Blah, 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 blah. So like she has endeared herself to me, and therefore he has as well, because I'm a big fan of.
But also, she's probably like
hair.
his age,
right? So it's completely reasonable for it to have gray hair. Anyway,
exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, but to fit in with that version of Keanu, which again he was not that guy in the popular imagination at this time,
right?
Something popped up on Facebook for me in the last couple weeks, and I saved it because I knew that we were going to be watching this. Apparently, there was a scene, and I couldn't tell which one it was, where the male actors were yelling. They were asked to yell like sexually harassing things at Winona Ryder to get her upset, so she would react a certain way.
Okay, weird.
I don't know. I couldn't identify what scene it was, but and he refused to do it. He's like, no. We can get what we need without being abusive.
Yeah. That's that sort of weird.
Yes.
Like not exactly not method acting, but like that sort of Kubrick stuff that you hear about with Shelley Duvall and all that. Yeah, like.
So now having seen it, I couldn't tell you what scene that even could have been. So now I'm like, is that true? How but. Regardless, that little tidbit tracks with the current view that we have of Keanu Reeves as a good guy. So,
Keanu.
Yay.
Yeah.
If true, yay, but okay.
Yeah. But, this movie I think is it's I don't know if it's the best of all the movies we watch, but it feels like the best representation of the book in terms of, that it does hit all those markers, but also it feels like a story from the 1800s. It doesn't feel like some of the movies feel more modern in a way. I think Horror of Dracula, it feels a bit more like a horror movie. Like they're trying to Dracula's a bad guy and he's evil and he's brutal. This one is more like
this. Definitely, you feel some sympathy for Dracula.
Yeah, it's shades of gray. Like we say, Mina is maybe doing this willingly in sometimes and unwillingly in others, and like all of these guys who are courting Lucy don't necessarily have the best of intentions because she's rich too. So I feel like with the exception of Seward, the other two suitors are probably well off enough that it doesn't matter. I mean, Quincy would have to be Texas rich to be over in England courting a woman
to afford a big knife like that.
Exactly right.
There was oil in them Nar Hills
or something. Yeah. Yeah. So it feels like an appropriate period piece. Everything kind of tracks. I think some of the other movies felt period accurate too. But yeah, like I just think at the end of watching these four representations of Dracula, far from the only four representations of Dracula on film, I'd have to say like I would probably put this one at the top, just in terms of the overall feel and everything that's included. Especially when you've now watched this movie. You can look at the others and see how much is missing. Yeah. Just massive, massive amounts of stories. Like the 31 Dracula just kind of took one or two threads. When you think about how much time we spend with Lucy, how explicit her death is, how all that goes down. And it is literally someone reads in the paper that Lucy died. And then there's one scene with the lady in white and then they stake her.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, and you don't spend that much time with her. She's in 2 or 3 scenes where she's, put the garlic out. Yeah. And then she's dead. And then,
Well, yeah, there's a lot more exposition about the garlic in the first movie. And then this one, we just sort of come in and there's a vase of garlic by the,
I think there's wolfsbane and garlic.
I thought it was, I feel like each movie kind of builds on the previous ones because they expect you to know some of the stuff. Like you don't need to introduce the idea of, garlic keeps vampires away.
Yeah, but in 31 you had to.
Right.
And it was wolfsbane in 31, but you had to introduce this concept of like a naturally occurring thing that he feared or whatever.
Yeah.
None of them do the running water thing. I think it's interesting of like all of the vampire lore in being invited in, all that sort of stuff, like none of that's really featured in. None of that seems to be sourced from Dracula, the novel, and unless that's in the novel and we haven't read the novel and we don't know. There's always that permanent disclaimer.
Yes.
None of that, stuff that later comes, like I'm specifically thinking about Lost Boys with the invitation stuff and all that sort of stuff. None of that's here. He is able to come into Lucy's room whenever he wants to bite her, and he's in every movie. He's able to come into Lucy's room whenever he wants to bite her.
There was, when Harker arrives at the castle, I think that was it. And Dracula is like, "Oh, come in."
Yeah.
And there's this looking at Jonathan's feet, and he crosses and he kind of pauses a minute. And I was like, "Oh, wait a minute. Is this like a reverse?
Right, yeah,
what's going on here?" I don't.
It could be a thing of like, if you're invited in by Dracula, then you are helpless against his powers or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was looking for there to be some like with the floor, but there was nothing.
Yeah. And like we spend way longer in the castle in the beginning, way longer than any of them. Some of them never even go there. And the 31 Dracula, it's just a couple of pieces of scenery for Lugosi to chew, and and then they're off. It's I never drink wine, and then your children of the night, and then you're off to London.
Speaking of the castle, though, when someone tells you don't go in the rest of the castle,
right,
then don't go in the rest of the castle.
Right, yeah. Maybe stay out of the rest of the castle. You won't get lady sucked.
Stay in your room. Catch up on your reading.
Right. Like, the Harker or Harker alike in several of the movies makes that mistake. The one in Horror of Dracula gets out of his room and
Also, I feel like you and I need a code for if ever one of us is stuck in a castle and is forced to write letters to our loved ones saying, "I'll be staying here for a month to show this person all about English culture. Can't say any more. Love you. Bye."
Right.
And and Mina gets in and is like, "It's so cold. So we need a code to be like, help, I am trapped."
He didn't sign this XOXO.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that.
He didn't give me the password. Something's wrong. Like we need.
Yeah. He didn't say he didn't start with what's shaken boo or something, So we'll develop that. We can't say that on the podcast. We don't want anybody to learn.
That's right, because it's only going to be between us, because we wouldn't want any of you, our listeners, to do us any harm. Right?
Yes, to invite us to your faraway castle and then force us to write letters.
Right.
I love that part when that's during the shaving scene when he comes in and he's like, "I need you to write letters to your employer and any of your loved ones that say you will be here for a month." Just like, yeah, okay.
I insist. I will not accept no for an answer.
And he's like right up on his face.
And he's
I
like,
will not accept no.
Shaving him right then, which is... I've seen too many movies. I guess it's all like gangster movies when someone is getting shaved and then they slit the throat. So whenever anyone has a straight razor and is shaving another person, I watch it through my fingers like that.
Yeah,
so I just
yeah. But So any closing? I'm trying to think if there's any is there any hot take that we've missed here? Any closing thoughts on this? I mean, I think this movie looks great.
It does, although I thought there were a little too many creative transitions. Between somebody's eyeball and then a ring of fire, or the sun, and I was like, I get it. Yeah,
there's
this lens.
There's a lot of sort of early '90s. We're kind of just on the cusp of going digital. Techniques that are happening. There's, and there's a lot of these what now would be looked at as sort of cheesy special effects. There's a thunderstorm and Dracula's eyes are superimposed into the thunderstorm. There's a moment and then his face is superimposed, and there's a lot of that. But there's a lot of really good model work. There's the castle, which is great because it has this, it's designed in such a way to vaguely look like a man sitting on a throne.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
If you notice, there's even some trees or something that are hanging off the side of it that almost look like a hand. It's really cool. Yeah, like take a look at it if you watch this movie again. There's some good stuff with the trains and stuff. They're traveling by train a lot. There's a final scene where they're traveling by train, and I was like watching it, and I'm like, I know this is a model, but it's so good. The only thing giving it away is the scale of like the smoke that's coming out, not of the smokestack, but coming out of like the steam that comes out of like the hydraulics and stuff on the wheels. Because that's the thing they always talk about with miniatures. They're hard to do around anything like fire or water that's moving, because it's so your brain knows the scale of water and fire and smoke. Yeah. And so when you see it and it's not in scale, it's a giveaway. But so many of the miniatures, that's why in like Lord of the Rings, they did what they called bigatures, which were like miniatures that were like 6 or 7 feet tall. Like some of those castle sets that were actually miniatures in Lord of the Rings were like 20 feet high. They were still miniatures, but they were huge, so that they could pipe in smoke and have little torches lit and all sorts of little things. And your brain wouldn't be like, no. Because if you make that like, 1/50th scale or whatever, or 1/25th scale, you'll be like,
flames so small.
Yeah. Right. You can't, unless you make them fake. So and it's just, there's a lot of good filmmaking in it in general. I do think, a lot of it is a little bit, there's a feel of like a little bit of experimental stuff. They keep showing like red blood cells. Yes. Like it's superimposed and like different.
Yes, we have invented microscopes. We know.
It's kind of like Francis Ford Coppola watched the 79 Dracula and was like, oh, I like some of this trippy stuff they're doing. Yeah. I'm going to do a lot more of that in my Dracula.
Yeah, there was, we talked about in the ending of the 79 one, there's that like blood red sun. And I feel like we saw that too when they're trying to get to the castle before sunset, and there's lots of focus on the bloody sun dripping.
Yeah, the sun is about 10 degrees from the horizon, and it takes it about 40 shots to set. Like it should take about 10 seconds for the sun to set.
Like the last 5 minutes of a football game. Like it took a long
It just keeps time. They just keep doing shots of the sun moving, like slowly setting behind the clouds and moving towards the horizon and stuff.
One other thing that I noticed, the score. Yeah. I swear I have seen some movie where the score was very similar. There was some sort of sting where the violins are in the background, and being very dramatic, and I cannot tell you what movie it was or anything else.
Yeah, it could be. Sometimes they do reuse stuff. I feel like it would probably be a case of this music getting reused somewhere else.
Yeah, or same composer and
same
just
composer.
I'm never gonna figure this out. But the whole time, every time they did that, I was like, I've heard that before.
Yeah, much like most films, this has a very recognizable melody in it that they've kind of set up as their sting, their thing, and it plays several times. But yeah, it's the music is good overall. There are times where the music is like weird and manic, like the scene where he's doing all these like weird high angle, like Dutch angle shots of Lucy and Mina running around in the rain.
Oh, why were they making out?
Right, and at one point they just kiss. Yeah, like it was just like.
I mean, I know that was a thing at some point when women were much more affectionate with their friends, but that's
maybe it was innocent. Maybe you were portraying you're projecting that onto a perfectly innocent friendship kiss.
I don't kiss my friends like that.
Not now.
Not in 1992 either.
Maybe you don't know what you're missing. Well,
the pandemic has made it so that's not an option.
Made it more difficult. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, it's a solidly made movie. It's got a lot of great visual choices. The old and young Draculas are very much like a look.
Yeah.
The old Dracula, the bun hair, the red robes, the long fingers and the hairy face. Palms, the chalky. That's all great. And then the long hair, blue spectacles, top hat, young Dracula, the prince version. Yeah, it's very much a look.
Yeah.
Like it's really well done. It's like a great silhouette. Both Dracula versions of Dracula. Well, I would say all versions of Dracula. The like pseudo wolf Dracula has a great silhouette. The bat Dracula has a really great silhouette. Like all of them.
Like
it's
a
all
gargoyle. That one.
Yeah, it's got a gargoyle look. Yeah, and there are some great single frames in this movie. Like the bat Dracula. There's a scene where you would basically say it's from Van Helsing's perspective, and he's holding a cross that's in the foreground, and the bat Dracula like hunches over and then stomps his foot, and the cross bursts into flames.
Yeah,
that's a great like single frame of a movie. There's a great similar shot with the cross being held at the white lady Lucy vampire when she's in her full regalia. And she's like, hissing at the screen. There are just some single frames of this movie that are just art.
Speaking of her regalia, that dress, holy, that was bonkers.
Oh, the whole collar and everything.
It looked like something on, Project Runway, where they're like, we're going to give you 7,500 coffee filters.
All right, yeah.
Make a dress. Good luck. I'm sorry. Well, I don't know. That's not how Heidi Klum talks. I don't know where that came from.
We've had 37 school children in a room for 6 days making paper snowflakes. Now you must make a wedding dress out of them. Go.
Good luck. Will you be in or you'll be out?
Make it work.
Yeah.
Isn't that what that guy says?
Yeah. It was, it's this massive color. It looks kind of like her head's on a platter, which is possibly on purpose. Yeah. And it's...
And she's got this pale, stark white face, and the vampire teeth, and there's a little bit of blood, and
that's a lot. Well, you know what? She let her future husband, I think, see her in the dress. It's bad luck.
That's possibly true. Yeah, that's
why
the whole thing is about that. The whole thing. And there, and the far off shot of the castle, like I said, which take another look at it. It looks like a man sitting in a throne. Some of the stuff at the beginning is great. Like they do a whole silhouette thing, which they mirror again later in the movie when they're doing like puppets doing a battle in silhouette. And then like it kind of comes full circle. And we're like, oh, okay. I think they were trying to kind of like say, oh, this is like a puppet, like almost like a masquerade or a mannequin kind of like not mannequin, marionette kind of thing. Like, yeah, there's some great shots in the early going. Yeah, the shot where after he stabs the cross when he's, cursing God and blood is just flowing from all around the room. There's the part where they catch Dracula going after Lucy and just like blood explodes from like both sides of the room. Yeah. There's great just moments like that.
Speaking of the beginning, did you notice that Anthony Hopkins is playing the priest at the point? And I couldn't tell, what is that supposed to mean?
Yeah, is that
Van Helsing is his descendant who's bad, or is that just like, we don't have any extras for that? Can you do it? Well, we'll put a beard on you.
I feel like that's the kind of role where if you were out of extras, like that's the role that the director does, or something like the screenwriter's on set. You put him in that role or something. No, I feel like that was very intentional and, is ambiguous, much like the ending, in your opinion.
Yeah.
Was that supposed to signify? Like I said, there's also the part where Van Helsing is the narrator, or he's the captain of the ship reading the captain's log. Like why is he the captain of the ship?
Yeah, there were a lot of weird. Anthony Hopkins as the priest is basically telling Vlad, oh, your wife killed herself, so she's going to hell.
Yeah, that's the great, like, that's the great thing when he's like, oh, well, at least we'll be together in heaven. And the priest is like, no, well, technically she's in hell.
No. Yeah. I'm very, very glad that at least the Catholic Church now is much more forgiving on that and is like, well, if you were in a state of mind as to take your life, you probably were not in your right mind. So we're going to give you a mulligan on that one. We're going to ask God for some mercy. We think you're going to be okay.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the great thing about being a Catholic is like, They change the rules whenever they want.
That's the great thing.
You've got a literal guy who's got Jesus's phone number,
Right.
and he can just hey, listen, this is the Pope now. Hey guys, listen, I just talked to JC, got off the phone with him, off my classic Nokia that I talked to the big guy on. And he says,
really good reception.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's great. The Verizon has cell towers all over heaven. Let me tell you, it's the coverage is 5 bars. It's 6 bars in some place. The phones don't even have 6 bars. You get 6 bars in heaven. That's how it's gonna be. You're gonna find out when you go. He called me up. I'm playing Snake on my Nokia. And he said, "Hey, guess what? It's not as much of a sin anymore if you do the thing."
We looked the benefits package. We decided it was time to upgrade that. We're gonna give you a free one. You're fine.
Yeah.
The Pope was playing Snake. I feel like that's just
hey,
the optics of that
I'm
are not
the Pope,
good.
and I just play Hangman and Snake on my phone all day until.
But I'm sorry, Snake.
Snake and the snake in the Garden of Eden got a bad rap.
At the end,
Hey, if he doesn't convince them to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil or whatever,
I don't have a job.
We're not even here. I don't have a job. Jesus doesn't come to earth. None of this happens. It all there would be 2 people living in a garden by themselves. 8,000 years later.
Everyone only gets to marry their cousins.
You got to thank the snake. He's great. All right. Yeah, we're getting a little after 4 Dracula movies. After watching the same movie 4 times, we're just a little punchy. And she's drank half a carton of wine.
I haven't had a good laughing fit in a while, so.
For those for the 6 people that stayed for this, boy, no one is laughing, but we're having a good time. Pull it together. You got to.
You're gonna have to close this out because I can't.
I don't know the thing. I zone out every week when you do it, so I don't know the thing. Whoa, hey, all right, hold on. Mute her mic so that doesn't come through quite as loud. So this has been Dracula 1992. I feel like we had a pretty good run here on Dracula movies this time with the Spooktacular. If we make it another year, I don't even know what we'll do.
I think let's not do the same story 4 times.
No, 100% no.
That was so much.
Maybe we'll do some modern horror movies next time. I don't know. I am though, assuming we're going to make it another full year.
Folks, you should let us know what you want us to do for the next Spectacular. I'm sorry, I'm not fully. Whatever. I'm not fully recovered. I'm sorry about the voice.
Just take a moment. Take a moment. So 4 Dracula movies this year. I think we had a pretty good run of it, and we are resuming regular service starting next week.
Yes. And next week we are watching Kissing Jessica Stein.
Oh, okay, sure.
It's about a woman who's a copy editor.
Heard of it, but I've never.
Basically me, except not.
Yeah.
So,
and Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff.
Yeah. Facebook, Twitter, YSMY Podcast, YSMY for you. Show me yours. You can also send us an email, ysmypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think of the Dractacular and which one is your favorite and why is it Frank Langella as Dracula? And if you have suggestions for the next Spooktacular, get in early. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, tell me what I was workshopping Draxus Ford Coppola for this one, but that didn't. I didn't ultimately go with it. But let me know.
Okay, are you going to be like? Yeah, is it like when Twitter everyone changes their name to spooky things for the?
Yeah, it's just every week we change our Twitter handle to Draxus Ford Coppola.
Yeah,
and Dracula.
Right, but yeah, so new episodes every other Wednesday. Every week. It was only during October, but now the first week in November, we're back to normal.
Every other week.
So 2 weeks from today, there'll be a new episode, no matter when you're listening. We're on most of your major podcast providers, specifically Apple Podcasts. And while you're there, we would love it if you would rate, review, and subscribe, which helps us move up the charts and make sure that you have the latest episode right in your queue. Next time we'll be doing Kissing Jessica Stein. I have a laughing fit. I'm a little weak afterward.
Yes,
it's like I've had the blood drained from me after a laughing fit.
You're like a Lucy.
I am,
having a Lucy moment.
Except I'm not putting my boobs out and having sex with a werewolf in the garden. Yeah. That was a little much.
If you'd like.
No.
That's
no.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I don't want to hold you back from your dreams.
No, we're good. Okay. We're good. Anyway, this has been You Show Me Yours with the 2022 Spooktacular featuring all the Draculas. We will see you next time. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
It's okay. What is
it's okay.
That's from the state. I don't even remember now.
Yeah. Hey, the Pope is coming. Don't spill the grape juice. The Pope is coming. Oh no, I'm going to spill the crude oil. And then the Pope comes in and, hey, it's okay. And then Louis comes in. He's like, I want to dip my balls in it. You know. This section has been sponsored by the state. Remember the state? If you're younger than like 35, you probably don't remember the state. It was great. Go watch the state.
Get yourself some chocolate pudding.
Can you tell we're like, $230, what is it, worth of pudding? Oh, yeah.
You see this pudding berry, baby. It says cook and chill, and that's what I do. I cook, and then I chill.
And don't worry your pretty little head. Last one. The monkeys, they don't do it. They make love.